I got some comments on my channel today from someone who was saying, you know, I've been planning on moving to Nicaragua when I retire, and I'll have this amount budgeted, and I'll be all done with everything, and I'll be kicking in my Social Security and such, and I'll be ready to be settled down. But because we had run through some budgeting numbers, he said, maybe I've been looking at this wrong. Maybe I could afford to move to Nicaragua much sooner and start that life there and be able to live in paradise right away instead of waiting until some arbitrary trigger had come along. And of course, for some people, those arbitrary triggers are very important, and for others, they may not be. And I think for a lot of people, there is this belief that these triggers, and it's a natural belief, we actually start from this point of saying, well, there's got to be something that's going to trigger me to make the move to my retirement home, to my future home or whatever, and they look for what that trigger is and then base things around that rather than deciding where they want to go and figuring out how they're going to get there and when makes sense for them. Hey everybody, I'm Scott Alan Miller, and this is my life living in Nicaragua. Before we dig into today's topic, so we'll do a little bit of housekeeping. One, I've been living in Nicaragua for the last 10 years on and off, and nearly 5 continuous. I live in Leon, Nicaragua. It is paradise. We love it here, and I try to help people with relocation ideas and living in Latin America and such. We don't have any services that we sell, just the show. And if you get down in the show notes, we got lots of stuff for if you need to contact me for any reason. If you want to send in questions by video, all that information's in the show notes. Social media that we have is down there. My photo feeds, other channels that I do around Nicaragua, like Nicaragua, where we do live concerts, recordings, and you can go see what like music out on the town is like here. Full concerts, you know, put it on your TV in the living room, just let it go for some music so you get that vibe of Nicaragua before you move, things like that. Of course, get down in the comments and ask your questions. I'll mention it real quickly. If you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Scott Alan Miller, or you can join our community with the join button down below. And we do have a GoFundMe. My producer, Marcela, has stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, and we are trying to raise money to help her take care of her kids. She's a single mom, 2 kids, and they have had to move to Managua where she's doing her treatment while they live here in Leon. A lot of complications come up. Her health care is all taken care of by the government. It's an amazing thing, and we're going to be giving a lot of feedback on that, hopefully in about a week when she gets her halfway chemotherapy review, which should be around Wednesday, Thursday of the coming week. So we're very hopeful that 1, the results are good, and 2, that we're able to share that happy news with all of you. Thank you so much for everyone who's been making her life really possible. It really does make a big difference, and she really appreciates everyone, as do I. Okay, so in this topic for today, this is a big thing, I think, for a lot of people. You're looking at retiring, and you say, well, I'm gonna get all these ducks in a row, and then I'm gonna be able to move. And of course, there are things you want to get done. I'm not saying you should rush. I'm always a big proponent of being patient and making good decisions, but also take action and keep moving. Don't just sit and wait for the world to, hand everything to you, make things happen. So when it comes to relocating, when it comes to moving to a new country like Nicaragua, now this does not necessarily pertain to those who are young with kids and you're just like, I want to explore the world and we want to do some different things. There may be completely different factors, but for those who are looking for a forever home, right, whether you're beginning an investigation or you've made the determination that Nicaragua, as an example, this doesn't have to be Nicaragua, this would apply to a lot of places, is your final destination. There are some important considerations because you're looking at your permanent home. So because it's your permanent home, presumably it's your permanent home. Boy, we got some great birds going on today. This is different. Because it's your permanent home, you have, and a whole group of new birds started making noise when I said that. Hopefully you guys can hear them on the show. They're really loud right in the tree over my head. Because it's your forever home, the presumption is that this is the place you want to be. This is the place you desire to be. Now, maybe you have limitations like, well, I'm waiting for my kids to move out of the house. I want to spend maximum time with them, but they're about to move away. And once they move away, then yeah, I'm done with wherever I am. Totally makes sense. Don't leave your kids unnecessarily. But for most people, you're at an age where it's like, oh, I'm done with the life that I've had. I'm phasing it out and I'm ready for this permanent life. The sooner you move, in general, then the sooner you're going to have to establish that new life and the younger you'll be to have more energy to do so. So I recommend, in general, consider very heavily, you want to get to your retirement life as soon as possible. I'm not saying you need to retire sooner than you plan on retiring. That's a different discussion. But once you're not working or whatever, if you're holding off the move until some arbitrary trigger sets in, look really carefully and determine if that trigger is something that really matters or if it's just an arbitrary thing that you created because it made sense at the time or seemed like a good starting point and then somehow got turned into a rule in your mind and it wasn't reevaluated again. In the example that I'm talking about, the person was talking about when their Social Security would start, which is not really a good trigger. It's not a terrible one, and for some people it could be a valid trigger, but in general it's going to be kind of an arbitrary additional set of money that comes at some point, and you need to look at it much more broadly and a little bit outside the box rather than assuming that that trigger is a given, because it probably isn't. Could be, but probably isn't. So that's what I'm talking about, that type of thing. So they've had this, I'm going to get at whatever, 62 and a half, I'm going to receive this additional Social Security money, and then I can retire. Once they ran the numbers, they realized something different, which we'll get to. But the first thing is that the sooner so if you're moving at, say, 58 instead of 62, that's going to give you an extra 4 and a half years where you can establish long-term friends, where you can put time into investigating exactly where you want to live. And importantly, at 58, you're going to have a lot more energy than you will at 62. It'll be easier for you to move around, go to different cities, try different communities before you find the permanent one that you want to settle into. Whereas if you did the same thing at 72, you'd find it all a lot more challenging. You'd have to do a lot more work online and hope for the best. And you wouldn't have as much time to do course correction should you end up in a community and decide, well, I want to give it 6 months before I really, if you're 72, giving up 6 months to make a really fine-tuned decision may not be something you feel comfortable doing, but at 58, you easily could feel like doing it. Those 14 years are a big deal. Now, very few people are moving to their forever home at 72, but you could be. Anything you can do to move it earlier lets you live the life that you are dreaming of sooner. Right? Presumably, if Nicaragua is the paradise you want to be in, because you want the weather, you want the food, you want the culture, you want to make a community, you want to, if you're moving at 72, you have many fewer years to make really close friendships and have that end of life with people, which hopefully is decades yet, right? But with lots of people that you've put in a lot of time. Right? My father is 79. If he was to move, or going to be 79, he'll correct me very quickly. He'll be 79 this year. If he was 79 and came down and he's not able to move here, he would like to. If he was able to move here, realistically, right, the absolute maximum amount of time he could have living in Nicaragua is 20 years, realistically. Right? And 20 years starting fresh is not a lot of time to build a lot of friendships. Of course, you'll have lots of friends, but all of those friends will be new friends for nearly the entire time that you live here. But we moved here in our 40s. And so a lot of the people that have been here that are our friends now, and a lot of the people who move in or that we meet, and we're constantly making new friends as well, very easily are going to be friends that we have for most of a century if we live even a bit less than I projected for my father. We will have lots of time, right? If we make it to 5 years less than that, we could have 50 years of friendships here. And so when we're reaching end of life, we could have these really, really long-term, deep relationships with people and memories of this place and being a part of the place and feeling so comfortable. And that's another thing, is when you're at retirement, you want that life to be as comfortable as possible. And the younger you are when you move, the more time you have in the place that you move to, and the younger that you do it, the more malleable your cultural affinity can be, and you will get more out of and more comfort out of those twilight years. And it's a kind of a sad way to look at things, that you need to think about your waning years and how you're going to approach them. But it's important, and we don't want to just gloss over it and pretend that those things don't matter, because they certainly do. And even for me, in my 40s, barely, it would be irresponsible for me to not be thinking about what my end years are going to be looking like and planning around them. So when we're talking about building a house, right, we're at a point where we're talking about, should there be stairs here, stairs there? Is one floor really that much better? Should we leave room for an elevator? Maybe at some point that's going to be necessary easily, not for a long time, I assume, but it easily could be, and we don't want to have to give up that home because we didn't plan around that. And we want to make sure our forever home isn't just a place we can make do. Now, when we can walk places or easily jump in the car and go, what if we have to be not very ambulatory and live on those grounds of that house into our later years, those are things that we have to plan for now, because we want a forever home. We want a forever community. We want a forever country, and all of that we think we have ironed out, and those details will come to light over years as I show them on the show. We're not in our forever home yet, but we're in our forever community. We're getting there, and one step at a time, right? We think, and so those things are really big deals for us having done this. Part of this decision was we want to be in a place, and partially we chose it because this is where we did manage to make really, really good friendships. And so we have this really tight community of people we really care about and care about us and trust us. And that is this fantastic community, right? And so that's what drives us, that this is where we want to stay. And we're going to have to, start that over if we go somewhere else, and try to establish those kinds of friendships and relationships somewhere else if we move. And we just don't want to do that, right, if we can help it. And so it's very important for us to look at it in this light. And I think it's very important for most of you to also look at it in that light. Now, if this is something that's temporary, you're looking at, I want to go to Nicaragua for 2 to 4 years, and then I look at moving on somewhere else, which I totally understand. I love the wanderlust thing. I love moving around the world, and I certainly hope to travel extensively and bring you guys lots of, especially Latin America, but things from around the world over the coming years, for sure. But I want a stable home base where I have these amazing relationships to always come back to, these friends that, and you watch my show and watch my social media. I have a really tight group of friends. I have an entourage that goes out when we go to the bar or club or something. I have a whole group that goes every week. We just text everybody. We're like, let's go meet here, jump in the car, off we go, right? We have this really close camaraderie, and some of those people are coming and going. One of my closest friends here is moving shortly to Australia, and that's going to be a huge loss to our ecosystem here. But we're making new friends, and we're becoming very deep in the community, and it is really a wonderful experience. So I encourage you to look at, from a social and personal aspect, if you're looking at a forever home and not a temporary wanderlust location, to really consider there's this huge value in getting to that new life. Once you've determined that you want this new life, the sooner you get there, the more you're going to be able to get out of it. Not just because there'll be more time there, but also because you'll be younger when you arrive. So that's the first piece. The second piece is the financial one. Now, this is one that doesn't apply to as many people, but still does apply to many. And this is really where this trigger of the Social Security becomes an interesting point. He was thinking that the financial situation for himself was solid enough once he had Social Security that he'd be able to move, and that would be a good time to do so. Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense as a thought process, but it's important to step back, as he did. I didn't have to prompt him, right? I'm just bringing his logic to you because I think it's very valuable, that he stepped back and he looked at it and said, oh, actually, because of the cost of living in Nicaragua, which he had not considered as a factor, he was considering, can he afford Nicaragua, which is an important thing for you to consider. But because Nicaragua is the lowest cost country and living situation in the Western Hemisphere, generally you don't have to consider it very much. If you can afford to live anywhere, you're going to be able to afford to live here. So that makes it a specific country where you can generally overlook some of this analysis, because as long as you're able to live, right, you can go anywhere. Go to Argentina, go to Chile, go to the United States, go to Canada, go to Mexico, go to Colombia. And if you can afford to live, well, Nicaragua is an option for you, right, from a financial perspective. So we often don't do a deeper analysis because we don't need to. But in this case, what he needed to do, and did, is look at what his budget could be in Nicaragua and look at what the cost of living really is in relation to where he is now, presumably the United States, because of the Social Security aspect of it. And by looking at that, it occurred to him that he may be in a position where moving to Nicaragua not only is feasible without his Social Security number. That was the first piece. But the second piece was that it may be more cost effective than staying where he is. Meaning that the sooner he moves to Nicaragua, and this is true for an awful lot of people, including many who are actively working, such as me, the sooner we move to Nicaragua, the sooner we have more power to create our future retirement, or we are able to save more, because we're able to have a greater savings, a greater access to money by living here. Our cost of living goes down. Often there's tax and other advantages to it. It depends on the person. Everyone has a different scenario depending on where you're coming from, depending on how you work and so forth. But for a great number of people, all people should consider it. But for a great number of you, you may discover that it is not an expensive thing that you need to save up for to be able to move to Nicaragua and live in paradise. It may be an actual financial windfall, maybe a small one, maybe a big one, to do so. And the sooner you move, the more financial power you will always have, right? If it costs you, as he found out, $1,400 a month in overhead to live in a house he already owned, he posted this in the comments, so it's public, and he could move here and for far less rent a house with everything taken care of. That means he could save, let's say he could spend $1,000 a month, which he could spend way less. He could spend $300, right? But depends on what he wants. Let's just say he's going to spend $1,000 all in here. He could save $400 a month just by paying to live here rather than living in his own house in the United States. And then, as an additional bonus, he's already making $400 more per month. He could sell the house in the United States. I have no idea how much it costs. Let's say it's a $100,000 house. It's a very cheap house, right? He sells this house in the United States. Now he has $100,000 cash. He's still saving $400 a month regardless, because he doesn't have a mortgage payment. But now he has a $100,000 nest egg that he can invest, let's just say in the stock market, makes 9%. I realize right now that's a little bit shaky, but just bear with me, right? These are standard numbers that still basically apply. He could find some way to make that work. So he's making 9%, which basically doubles his money every 10 years. So that 100,000 will turn into 200,000 in 10 years, will turn into 400,000 in 20 years. That's all money that is otherwise lost. Plus, he's earning, by saving, $400 per month, or maybe $1,000 per month, depending on how frugal he wants to be. These are massive numbers. So at the end of 20 years, he could, let's use the easiest numbers. Let's say he sold a $100,000 house, ended up with $400,000, and then saved $1,000 a month, which is, the houses we're doing very cheap, and the savings per month is very high, but the numbers still work. That means, and we'll do it a little bit less, like he's saving 900, so let's just say it's 10,000 per year. After 20 years, he saved $200,000. Is that really right? $200,000, because it's $10,000 per year for 20 years. $600,000 ahead, or minus the 100,000 value of the house, right? So $500,000 ahead simply by moving 20 years earlier. Now, we're not talking about moving 20 years earlier. We're probably talking about him moving 2 to 4 years earlier. So the savings isn't as big, but the theory holds. Every month he's saving more money, and every month he can invest that money from the house and make more. And as a temporary thing, the U.S. market seems to be coming down in houses, and Nicaragua's near the bottom. So if he's able to get out now before the U.S. housing market comes down farther, he will get more out of his house than he does if he waits, we presume. And if he gets in now to Nicaragua, or sometime soon, he's getting in at the bottom and has nowhere to go realistically but up, protecting that investment as well. Assuming he wants to buy, which he doesn't need to, he could rent completely out of the budget he has for maintaining a house in the United States. I know that was a lot of financial math really quickly without seeing anything in paper, but trust me, his financial power goes up so dramatically by moving to Nicaragua that it's crazy every day that he's paying a fortune to hold on to his old life when his new life in paradise is ready to make him money simply by moving. His life will get easier. He will start his new life, do all the advantages we talk about, and save a fortune the first day that he manages to move. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Scott Miller. Please like and subscribe to the video. If you would be so kind as to share it on social media, tell some of your family, friends, someone about the show. We're all about relocating in general. I'm here in Nicaragua. I love really focusing on Latin America. I love to travel and have been doing so for a long time. It's an interesting show. I really appreciate my amazing audience who live in my little GoPro box. We bring the show out every day. And of course, get in the show notes and see all the stuff we have. Get down in the comments, say hello, ask your questions, leave your comments, all those things. We love when people engage. Every Thursday, we try to have a live stream for like 5 to 8 hours every Thursday evening. It's super cool. All the things I told you earlier, and I will see all of you tomorrow.